That's right. It's time for another episode of 30 Years Ago, this month. Okay, this is the third episode, so I don't really need to explain what's going on here. I mean, the title pretty much says it all right. We're talking about shit that happened 30 years ago, this month, in the year 1992. March of 1992, to be exact. First off, before we get to any of the music-related shit, the most important thing that happened in March of 1992 is yours truly, old head, back when he was a young head, turned 14 years old. Legit teenager. I guess I'd been a teenager for a year, but man, I was probably full of hormones and pimples and all sorts of shit. But you know what? I was really, really excited about all of the things happening around me in the entertainment world, music and movies. That was really it. I wasn't really into much else. I'm still not. But we're going to be talking about the shit that happened in March of 1992 that was a big deal at the time. First off, as we've been doing, let's talk about what was going on in the music charts in the US. We already talked about it last month. The motherfucker is still number one in the Billboard charts this month. For the entire month, that album was, yes, Rope in the Wind by Garth Brooks. It was number one. What did I say? What was it? 10 fucking weeks? It was number one a long time. But I decided to add a little extra this time because if you watch like some of my other shit on this channel, it seems like, all I really do is talk by myself or I'm talking with people from the UK. It's almost like the UK is my second home now. So let's also talk about what was the number one album in the UK in March of 1992. Way different. Makes more sense. Rope in the Wind was number one in America. Over in the UK, it was Divine Madness, which is a compilation of the British ska band Madness. So that's ours was a very American choice. There's a very British choice, I would say. And that album was number one for most of the month in the UK. But now let's move to the song charts in the US. Now, for the first half of March in the US, the number one song is one that, like, you think of this song and you probably think 80s, but it was 1992, post-Nirvana. The number one song for half of the month of March was To Be With You by Mr. Big. So apparently that whole scene had some more juice left in it at that point. But then the second half of the month, there was a new number one for a couple weeks, and that was the song Save the Best for Last by Vanessa Williams. I mean, who hasn't heard that one? And now to check in with our friends over in the UK, this month in 1992, the number one song, I think for the entire month and maybe even longer, was a song called Stay by a group called Shakespears Sister. Now, when I first read that, I said, I've heard the name Shakespears Sister. I don't think I've ever heard the song Stay in my entire life. And so I quickly went over to Apple Music to listen to Stay. And guess what? I've now heard it. I would like to never hear that song again for the rest of my life. Now let's look at the movie box office results of March of 1992. Keep this here in America for this part. For the first part of the month, just like the last month ended, the number one movie in America was Wayne's World. Once again, can't fucking complain about that. A lot of money came straight for me for that movie. And then for the third week of March, there was a new number one movie. Some of you may have heard of it. It was called Basic Instinct, starring Sharon Stone, Sharon Stone's vagina. I mean, literally all of Sharon Stone and Michael Douglas. Some would say too much of Michael Douglas. And then for the last week of March, another one of my favorite movies became the number one movie in America, and that was White Men Can't Jump. Just a fucking really entertaining and fun comedy starring Wesley Snipes, fuck yeah, and Woody Harrelson, also fuck yeah.
Oh, it is hard goddamn work being this good.
Shut the fuck up.
In music news, there's not a lot for March of 1992, at least that I thought was noteworthy, but an interesting one. 2 years in the making at this point, this particular story, a judge in Chicago, Illinois, approved cash rebates for anyone who could prove that they bought any music by Milli Vanilli prior to their lip syncing scandal. And get this, all of those people that bought that Milli Vanilli music, they were going to get, wait for it, up to $3. I mean, that whole Milli Vanilli thing was in 1990. It only took them 2 years, and then that's all you're getting. Up to not even guaranteed $3, up to $3. All right, now the meat of this show, people. Let's talk about the music releases of March of 1992. Let's start on the 10th. The 10th of March, probably the biggest day in March of 1992 for me. A few really good releases. First off, we get the debut EP from the band Tool. Opiate is the name of the EP. At that point, I had no fucking clue who Tool were. I would get into them as soon as they released their debut full-length Undertow, but Opiate, it's really, really fucking great EP. Also released on March 10th of 1992, the fourth King's X album, which is just titled King's X. And I've talked about King's X a few times on this channel. They're one of my favorite bands, and this is a really great album. It's basically the end of an era for King's X because they did 4 albums in a row with the same producer, kind of similar vibes. And then, by the time they released their next album, Dogman, it's like they kind of turned a corner. But this is a very fucking strong album. And this particular vinyl release actually has the song Junior's Gone Wild, which was in the movie Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Apparently it's not on any of the CD releases, but it's I got it here on this. I think this is a German. Nobody cares, Steven. Moving on to the next release of March 10th. Okay, last up for this particular release day, but to me, the biggest release of March of 1992, in my humble opinion, the debut album from Body Count, which apparently is just called Body Count, but when I first got it, it was called Cop Killer, because I guess it doesn't say Cop Killer as the title, but that's what I always called it, because you look at the cover and the dude's chest says Cop Killer. It doesn't say it anymore because, as everybody knows, there was a really big controversy over that song, and they ended up taking it off and replacing it with a different song that's fine, but nowhere near as good as Cop Killer. Took me forever to find a vinyl copy of this, once again, a European version of it. I think I got a cassette one too, somewhere around here also with Cop Killer on it, because this album it's not right unless it ends with Cop Killer. Fantastic album. For those of you who don't know, Body Count, metal band, fronted by Ice Motherfucking T. That's all you really need to know. He doesn't rap. There's no rapping on this. It's metal. Crossover thrash, essentially. Okay, anyway. Cop Killer, or self-titled by Body Count. Okay, moving forward to March 17th of 1992, an album that I don't know why I don't have this on vinyl yet. That's a fucking crime. I should do something about that. I'm gonna see if I can find one. At this point, they're probably all very expensive. But the third album from the band White Zombie, La Sexorcisto, Devil Music Volume 1, which was the big breakthrough album for White Zombie, with the song Thunder Kiss 65. And I remember it like clear as day. I remember the album coming out, seeing the music videos on Headbangers Ball. At that point, I think they were a strictly Headbangers Ball kind of band. And then all of a sudden, there was an episode of Beavis and Butthead.
This band is cool.
And you know what? When Beavis and Butthead say something rocks, there go the fucking sales through the fucking roof. And then you started seeing White Zombie, during the day on fucking MTV. So yeah, great album. What more can I say about it? It's probably the most popular album in this bunch. Moving on. Okay, wrapping up the month of March, on the very last day of March, March 31st, there was this album, which I have it on cassette. One day I'll get it on vinyl. The fifth album from Def Leppard, which is called Adrenalize. There you go. You want me to pull it out? You want me to do it? I'm gonna do it. Let's see how many folds we get. 1, 2, 3, 4. And look, a backwards one. 5. Oh man. Remember that? There's something so satisfying about that many folds, but now I don't know how to fucking get it back together again. Forget that. Anyway, Adrenalize by Def Leppard. I believe it was a 5-year gap between their previous album Hysteria and Adrenalize. And when it came out, it was fascinating to me because you saw the video for Let's Get Rocked, and I'm like, are they serious? Because it was 1992. And it's like, they went through a lot of things. I mean, they had already gone through a lot, but there was the death of Steve Clark, and then all of a sudden this whole grunge thing happened, but Def Leppard just like comes out of the gate in 1992 like it's fucking 1989. And I mean, the album did well, and it's a really fun album. Like, I really enjoy the album. I think at the time, some people, mocked it because it was very still in the 80s, but this amount of time that's passed since then, you just pop it on, you're like, oh, this is just that style of music that if you're wanting to have a good time, put on Adrenalize. All right, that was March of 1992. I remember some of it like it was yesterday, some of it like it was 30 years ago, but it's still enjoyable as hell reliving a lot of this shit. So thank you for joining me to relive this with me, and you bet your sweet ass I'll be back next month to talk about April of 1992. See you then.